Well, folks, it is glad to be back here with you. And today, I'm going to break down how Joe Biden has brought this country from liberal promises of building back better to simply broke. I'm your host, Eric Wright, and you're listening to the Closet Conservative Podcast. Friends, folks consider me to be quite the history nerd. That's just okay by me. For you see, the writer and philosopher George Santayana coined the saying, those who do not learn from the past are doomed to repeat it. Historians indicate that in September of the year 476 AD, the greatest empire ever to rule the earth died. Roman Empire was one of the greatest and most influential civilizations, and it lasted for over 1,000 years. But you see, what many people don't know is what caused the fall of the Roman Empire. No, believe it or not, old Joe Biden wasn't alive back then, but you see, the corrupt principles and absolute disregard for practicality and corrupt political policies led to Rome's destruction. For generations, Rome was engaged in wars across its vast empires, stretching its military resources so thin that it opened itself up to invasions. And also during these times, Rome suffered financially, hemorrhaging money and overspending in all the wrong areas. Oppressive taxation and inflation had widened the gaps between rich and poor through the government's influence on free market economies and trade. And as a result of its increased tax, many businesses within Rome, who were the employers and financiers of the Roman government, fled the empire's confines to escape the government's oppressive financial onslaught. During Rome's expansion, slave labor was the driving force in manufacturing. But as military resources emptied and the government overspent and neglected its true purpose, Rome's workforce was depleted. The final blow to the Roman economy was the direct result of other empires that rose and disrupted Roman trade throughout the world. Untempered excess of Caesar and the political elite rotted collected monies from within, taken from the working class peoples of Rome to finance political pet projects and those within government. The political rot also extended to the Roman Senate, which failed to temper the emperor's excesses due to its widespread corruption and incompetence. And as the situation worsened, civic pride waned, and many Roman citizens lost trust in their leadership. When Rome could take no more, the money was spent, and it could no longer fend off global competition. And Rome fell before the world. Folks, why do I tell you this story? Very simply put, today America is in a severe and purpose-driven Democrat decline. Our president and our government have manifested the fall of this great nation, and what's worse is that many in our country, by sheer ignorance or lack of caring, are too blind to see just how bad the blows of Biden and the Democrat Party are. Since taking office, I've preached that liberal policies will kill our nation. And you know what? I was right. Like so many conservatives before me, we know what works and what doesn't work for America. A free market economy, low taxation policies with limited government spending, and global interference keep America safe and prosperous. Today in the United States, inflation due to the ignorance of our current government is killing the American way of life. This week alone, folks, a gallon of fuel nationwide has hit almost $4.60, with indications that this number will increase to nearly $6 by summer. So bad that many fueling stations are ordering new LED signs to adjust for double-digit fuel numbers. And on the East Coast, fuel supplies are becoming limited. The U.S. stock market this week saw its worst decline since 2001. The S&P posted its longest weekly losing streak since the dot-com bubble burst, down near 19% for the year. The Dow Jones suffered its 8th straight weekly loss. Treasury yield sank with the yield on the benchmark 10-year note falling below 2.8%, while U.S. crude oil prices edged up more to around $112 a barrel. Earlier this week, Weaker than expected earnings results and guidance from U.S. major retailers appeared to confirm fears that companies were having more difficulty passing on rising costs to consumers. Ross stores, Target, and even Walmart, folks, saw their stocks and values plummet. Infant parents across the country continue to struggle to find formula to feed their children. The Biden administration and the Democrat Party continue to throw billions and billions of dollars to aid in Ukraine. Year to date, folks, $54 billion has been sent. And as Biden and the Democrats continue to blame both the COVID pandemic and President Trump for the current woes of our country, they ignore that they and they alone are to blame for the current mess of this nation. Liberal manifested inflation just didn't come overnight. Instead, Democrats have ignored the obvious and lied to the American people about what is essential and what has been essential for over a year and a half. In true liberal fashion, today's Democrat Party wanted to spend its way out of trouble, duping the public into thinking that their COVID stimulus money would get them through the tough times. And while that may have been and have allowed for unnecessary purchases of big screen TVs and iPads last fall and winter, today's consumer is broke. Many Americans didn't understand that the money wasn't free from the U.S. government during the COVID pandemic, but instead an advancement of the tax refund that they were so accustomed to receiving. In April, they had no money. And in fact, they faced massive repayments to the IRS. And with rising fuel and food costs, no money left to the coffers to spend. This week's retailer report indicates this. The Biden administration is spending money like drunken sailors, and the average American is dying at the fuel pump and grocery store shelves. Folks, we are just months away from the most significant housing and banking institution ruin that our nation has ever seen. And if you thought that the Democrat-led crisis of 2007 and 2008 was dire, hold on, you haven't seen a thing yet. Ladies and gentlemen, the old saying goes, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. But I'm here to tell you that America needs to understand history, for if not, we are doomed to repeat it. Leading up to its fall in 476 AD, Romans let their government overstretch and overspend their country into despair. And in 2022, if we do not take back this country, we too, as Americans, will suffer the same fate. You have been listening to the Closet Conservative Podcast.